guys have all seen, everybody on this thing, a nice, clean, you know, in a perfect world, this is how our marketing works. So really, over here is the driver of everything, the data, okay? You know, we can talk about, you know, information like name, address, job title, company size, all that fun stuff, and saying, hey, these are the people. Another thing that we do a lot of with our clients is IP targeting. So many of our clients come to us and say, hey, these are the companies that we want to go after. And every headquarters, every, you know, Wi-Fi has their own IP address. And we're able to serve ads just to those folks, just to those IPs. And then that ties back into our keywords and the actual individuals, because going off the previous examples, we can say, hey, this company's IP, we got to click on that ad. We can go to our data and say, hey, these job titles are the ones that we go after. We should be calling those people, or we should be calling those, sending emails to those folks. And I'll give you a real life example. And then once again, in a perfect world, using all this data, you're sending them ads, you're sending them emails, you're driving them to landing pages, and you're tracking that all through a CRM system, and it's a continuous loop. And then people that fill out that form or hit that lead scoring threshold, you have your prospects, your marketing prospects, things that go over to sales, things that sales are excited to go after, and then a closing deal. But once again, this is a perfect world, you know, but what's the real world? And what are things that we really need to think about? So with that being said, I'm actually going to give you an example of a use case of one of our clients. And I'll talk a little bit about the results that they got, but I'll also talk about a little bit of their strategies and some of the challenges that they ran into. So here's the funnel, okay? So this was a client. Here's a little bit of the backstory of the client in this use case. Great client in the benefits space in the healthcare industry, okay? And this is actually very common, which we run into. They originally came through us for a data purchase. Hey, these are the companies that we want to go after. These are the size, these are the titles, you know, and we want to get information for our sales team. And we're going to do all this deployment through Pardot, through marketing automation, tied into our sales force, highly qualify the leads, head it over to our sales team, and we're going to make billions upon billions upon billions of dollars, okay?
Everyone's dream.
Everybody's dream, okay? So, you know, so they bought data from us, and 4 months go by, and they still haven't launched their campaigns. So that's where LSC hopped in. You know, they were having challenges. Does this sound familiar to anybody? Well, they spent a fortune on enterprise level Salesforce, but nobody really knew how to use Salesforce in their organization, okay? And nobody was really owning it at the end of the day. They spent a small fortune on Pardot because that integrates with Salesforce, but once again, nobody really knew how to use Salesforce. Once again, very skilled, highly skilled marketers, but going back to my previous point, you know, a lot of times, and I've seen this time and time again, is organizations, their eyes are a little bit bigger than their stomach, and they buy these huge systems, and at the end of the day, they almost use them like they would a Constant Contact or a MailChimp. They could have spent a fraction of dollars, because there's a lot of work involved with setting up those marketing automations. So LSC, you know, hopped in, said, hey, you know, how can we help you? Let's help you get these deployments. Let's help you with Salesforce. And this is how it all kind of panned out at the end of the day. So this client had about 19,000 records in their Salesforce. Weren't really sure of the quality of this data. They weren't really sure of where this data came from, how old it was. Also, and once again, to a lot of people on this call, on this webinar, does this sound familiar? They were expecting their sales team to be managing the data quality, okay? And we all know, you know, and this isn't a bad thing, salespeople are not crazy about deleting records, you know, or changing names or removing something. So if you're looking for your sales team to manage that, that's not really fair, okay? And you really need to have somebody outside the sales chain to really be managing that for obvious reasons. So, you know, that's something that we're helping them work through. So they had these 19,000. The very first thing we did was verify all of those records. So we basically did our email verification, merge, purge, all that fun stuff to ultimately clean up the database, okay? And any empty records we started filling. Plus, they did a data purchase with us. They said, hey, we want to go after these people at these companies. So what that translated into was a starting database of roughly almost 37,000 unique contacts, okay? Now those 36,900 unique contacts, we started doing email marketing to those folks, okay? Very simple. They had a 3 email series, and they would email this, find some interest, drive them to a landing page in the hopes of getting a form fill, following up, handing over to the sales team, and closing deals. Very typical, okay, approach. So, of those almost 37,000 unique contacts, we delivered, okay, over 200,000 emails into those 36,000. But wait a sec. If you only have 37,000 unique contacts, how'd you guys deliver over 200,000 emails with only 3 creative? Well, this is very important. We just didn't send to this audience and, hope if they open, hope one send, hey, they opened it. If they didn't, they didn't. We sent them the second one. No, we really, and it was kind of a running, for lack of a better word, joke. We really squeezed a lot of juice out of those 3 emails. So if we sent to somebody and they didn't open, we resent that email to them with a different subject line, okay? Or we resent, and they still didn't open, we resent that email at a different time. Some people are more engaged in the morning than they are the afternoon. So we continually kept on changing very simple elements. We weren't changing creative at all, actually. We were just changing subject lines, days, and time of day, and continually improving overall engagement. Just like in sales, any guy, if there's anybody on this call in sales, look, the first time you call somebody, it's very rare they pick up the phone and you get a lead. Usually you have to call that person multiple times and catch them. If it was that simple, nobody would need to hire salespeople. Okay, you need to really work those leads, and that's really what we were doing through email. So ultimately, those little over 200,000 unique emails turned into a little over 4,500 unique mail opens. And I want to take a second and stay on this a little bit. Think about that. If you had a marketing effort where your total universe you're going after is almost 37,000 people, and of those 37,000 people, you are able to get 4,500 of those people to engage with your message, that would be huge. That's over a 10% engagement rate. No marketing efforts have those types of results. So you were able to get 1 out of 10 people to engage in your message, okay? That's great. That's awesome. And we started to do something a little bit different here. Because when I started out, they had the typical approach, and maybe this sounds familiar, is that, hey, we send emails to these folks, we get a form fill, we hand off to sales that form fill, okay? Now the challenge is with that approach, and this is probably a lot of people's experience on the call, are those people interested in that free thing you're offering for a form fill, or do they really want to talk to a salesperson, okay? Typically, more often than not, they want that free thing you're offering, that awesome white paper, that free download, whatever it may be, that free trial that you're offering. So we changed it up a little bit. And we were able to hand off of those 4,500 unique people, we were able to hand off a little over 350 leads to sales. Well, how did we qualify those 4,500 unique emails open? So those 4,500 email opens, we didn't hand them all to sales, but we also weren't just looking for a lead form. We developed a very specific lead scoring methodology with them, okay? And to be honest with you, we actually had very few actual form fills, okay? What we did have was people opening emails, people clicking emails. So if somebody opened an email and clicked through but didn't convert, but navigated the site and then opened the second email, that was given certain scores, okay, throughout the whole process. And by working with our client to do a very specific lead scoring methodology of really looking at three things: explicit, implicit, and negative information, we were able to start handing off highly qualified people, not based off of just a form fill. Form fill was something that we scored, but honestly, we had very few form fills. We had a lot of opens, we had a lot of clicks, we had a lot of navigations on the site, a lot of clicks on ads, and we put all those together. And the reason I bring up explicit, implicit, and negative, that's really the data you got to work from, okay? I see way too often, whether the time at LSC, whether my time at D&B or time before that, is that people come up with some real interesting theories on why they should follow up and why they shouldn't follow up, okay? Everything from time of year to, gender to you name it. I've heard some interesting theories. You really need to stick to these criteria of explicit information. So that's the title, that's the location, that's the industry, that's the size of the company. That's the lead source that Kate and Brooke talked about a little bit. So a VP, getting an engagement from a VP is a lot more at that company, is scored a lot higher than the director, for example, okay? Or the location, hey, that's somebody at the headquarters versus a satellite office. So those types of things. And those you can take at face value. Like there's nothing, that you can really, hey, that person's a VP, they're the VP, period. And then there's the implicit information. So that's the website visits, the phone calls. So them taking some type of action, okay? That's opening, that's the form fills. And then there's also the negative. Look, if nobody's opening up or clicking on your ads, they're not interested, okay? Hey, you had a phone call with somebody. There was no budget. Doesn't matter they think you're great. If they have no budget or if they have no authority to spend anything, they're not the right people talking to. So we had a very specific methodology based around, hey, when do we hand this over to sales? So let me stress again for the fourth time, very few form fills, okay? So if we would have been dozens of leads passed over to sales instead of hundreds if we were doing form fills. Now, of those 359 leads that we passed to sales, 35 of those turned into meaningful conversations, okay? Now, think about that. 1 out of every 10 of those leads turned into a meaningful conversation, okay? Now, I know as a salesperson, if I got 10 leads from marketing and one of them actually turned into a really, hey, this is something we're looking for, this is where we need to be, I want to talk more about it, that would be huge, okay? If anybody's on marketing and sales on this call, 1 out of 10 meaningful conversations that sales was reporting back was, hey, 1 out of every 10 was a real meaningful conversation. Sales definitely wanted to follow up on these leads that we were sending them. So of those 35, 8 actually turned into opportunities. So now think about that. 1 out of every 4 conversations are turning into proposals, okay? Once again, very huge, okay? And then finally, out of those 8, they won a little over $700,000 in new business. And I'll tell everybody on this call without going, they were nowhere near that with us. Trust me, fractions, less than a few single percents, okay, was their investment in marketing. So how did that all happen? Look, the backbone of all of this is data management, okay? Going back to the beginning of this slide, they were stalled. They had the investment, they had the tools, okay? They had the smart people, okay? Very smart people. I love working with this client. But they didn't have governance of the data. Nobody was really in charge of the data. Nobody was really in charge of the quality of the data, plus the systems weren't in place to manage that data, okay? So looking at this graph, okay, they had a lot of gold in those hills, okay? But just because their data management wasn't there, from the initial cleaning of that data, but the ongoing management of that data, they were stalled. They weren't moving forward, okay? And then once they were able to move forward and get that under control, they were able to generate, in about 4 months, a lot of revenue, okay? So things that I hear all the time, in past life, a big part of my job was flying out to places with people that were having problems with their data or weren't seeing the investment. You know what the number one killer was when I went out there? Who's managing your data? The sales team is managing your data. Or we all kind of manage it. We're all kind of responsible for managing data. That was the kiss of death, okay? Oh, we're going to give you all this data. So what if you already have some of these records? What's the rules, okay? Because this would kill people all the time. They wouldn't even think about it. They would upload all this new data and overwrite all this information that was already in there from the salesperson. So the salesperson will log in one day and all his call notes were gone, the email was different, and they were ready to murder somebody. So these are things that you got to think about. And I think Kate and Brooke did an awesome job today. And that's something that we really help companies with. And that's something where LSC, we're very lucky as far as a lot of agencies, is that since we are a data company at our heart, we're able to skip a few steps. How many people on this call are working with an agency, and I'm sure they do a great job, okay? But they're looking for form fills, and you have nothing to work with until you get that form filled. Well, we have the data. We know John Smith is the VP at this company you want to call into. We already know that. Now it's about getting John Smith engaged with your message. And that's where LSC kind of brings it all together between our data and our marketing services.